Hey guys, what's going on? I just dismantled my TBR to bring you the 24 books I'm most excited to read this year, and I'm hoping one of them jumps out at me because I need a book to read. I started this one, The Answers, which was a random pickup from Goodwill, but all the dialogue is in italics, not quotes, and I've been trying to get over that fact, but I can't seem to. I don't want to start the year off on a DNF, but it's looking that way. So, we're going to build our way up to the book I'm most excited to read this year, starting with The Doors of Eden by Tchaikovsky. I read Children of Time and thought it was an absolute sci-fi masterpiece. I read Children of Ruin and didn't enjoy it as much, but I think my expectations were too high, so I'm going to learn my lesson this time. I'm sure it's full of good ideas, I'm sure there's some cool aliens, and it's one I can sink my teeth into. Already I'm excited to read one of these, and I have 23 more to go. Next we got The Iron Heel by Jack London. I tried reading this one last year, but I didn't quite get there. People say it's the precursor to 1984, and that's enough for me. Also in Penguin Classic form, which I love. Although this one I bought on eBay from one of the many sellers who use stock photos, and it's a bit of a gamble. This one I lost, unfortunately. Big textbook sticker on the back. Cover here bent in half. A lot of writing and underlining. The book claimed to be very good. It's clearly not. But, you know, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. And I did win. You'll see that soon. Next we got The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. I don't really do poetry. I've had this book of Robert Frost poems on my shelf for a long time. I think I picked this up because the Dark Tower series is based on a line from a T.S. Eliot poem. Or perhaps I'm just getting the titles of this book and the third book in the Dark Tower series confused. I'm not sure. In any case, I am excited to read that one, and I most likely will this year. Next, we got Dracula by Bram Stoker. This one I won't be reading now. I'm going to save this for October. It'll definitely be a seasonal read. I read Frankenstein for Halloween last year and really enjoyed that one. I know this is very different. I think it's more horror-based, but I don't really know. Hoping to find the Penguin Black Spine edition to read that one before the time comes, though. Next, we got The Stars, My Destination by Alfred Bester. A lot of people say this is an absolute science fiction masterpiece. I'm inclined to believe them. It's been on my shelf for a little while. I'm not sure exactly why I haven't gotten around to it, but I think this year I will. Excited for that one. Very different here, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I've been wanting to read this one for a while, but I haven't been in the proper headspace. Probably not the best book to read in winter. I think it's about suffering. Definitely not a cheery book, but I want to read at least one bulky literary classic a year. So this might be the one for 2024. We'll see. Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. It's been a while since I read a Neil Gaiman. I don't think I read a single one last year. No, I didn't, because I just did my full year review and he was not present. But I love Neil Gaiman. He is extremely readable. I've at least liked everything I've read of his. So this one might be the booster book after I read Crime and Punishment this year. Save that one for a rainy day. And I think that is supposed to be humorous. No, that's Good Omens. That's a different book. Next, Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. Another one I'm not going to read right now. I'm saving this for summer because that is when this is set, I'm pretty sure. I find it enhances a book a lot, especially a book during summer when you can be outside reading it and really feeling the theme of the book. Excited for that one. I've kind of warmed up to Bradbury after reading Something Wicked This Way Comes. You do have to brace yourself for the whimsy. Next is Poseidon's Wake by Alastair Reynolds, but not necessarily Poseidon's Wake. This is just the first one of his I've seen in the wild. I hear a lot about Alastair Reynolds, almost all of it good, and I haven't read a word of his, so I feel like I should. Next is A Farewell to Arms by Hemingway. I do make a yearly sacrifice to Hemingway. I want to read one of his books a year, and I keep going back and forth between A Farewell to Arms and The Sun Also Rises. People hate both books, people love both books, so it's hard to find a direction. This is a nice edition, and it's from the Hemingway house. At least it's got a sticker here. I don't really know what that means, but for some reason it entices me to read this book. And actually, I would be happy reading this book right now. So that is going to go in the potential read now pile. This one too, actually, Cemetery World by Clifford D. Simak. Big fan of this guy. I think I have read what most people think are his best works, but I'm sure there's a lot more to offer. It's also going to go in the read now pile. Here's one I'm sure a lot of you are going to be happy to see. Definitely the most recommended book on the channel Dune by Frank Herbert. I tried a long time ago and I failed, but here we are. I'm gonna try again in 2024. I gotta brace myself a little bit. That's not going to be in the read now pile. Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. I have decided I'm going to read one Vonnegut book a year from now on. I read 5 last year. That was way too many. And there's only so many more to read, and that's kind of unfortunate. I was a bit nervous because I thought I had read the best that Vonnegut has to offer, and the rest of it was just going to pale in comparison to what I'd already read. But Robin over at Bookspin asked me if I had read this one and said that this one was his favorite. So that was really uplifting to know that there are still great stories out there. Excited for that one, but I got to pick when to read this because I love Vonnegut, and if I only get one a year, I don't want to squander it. And here's the gamble that I won. I've been absolutely obsessed with these Penguin Orange editions. Beautiful books, and I saw that some stock image bookseller on eBay had a couple, claimed they were very good, and indeed they are. I'd even say they're like new. So I was very excited when they came in, and I was showing my wife, and she had this look on her face, and I knew something was up. She had bought me the same book for Christmas, so now I have 2 copies, which is fine because I think my wife will like this book too, and we can read it at the same time, and maybe she could even give her input here on the channel. We'll see. But it's about a guy who goes into the wilderness to study the snow leopard, which is very similar to her favorite book, very similar to the best book I read in 2023, Never Cry Wolf. So very excited for that one, but I'll have to plan it with my wife because I want to read it at the same time. Next we got Thorns by Robert Silverberg. Big Silverberg fan as of last year. This is a popular one. I have like 3 of his books ready to go, but I think this is the one I'm most excited for. A Maze of Death by Philip K. Dick. This was also part of that eBay stock image gamble, and you can see it came more as expected. They claim it's very good, but there's a stain near the title there, but that's fine. I'm always excited to read Philip K. Dick. I think I'm going to enact a similar rule like Vonnegut where I only read 1 a year. I know this guy wrote like 100 books though, so there's really no limit to the supply, but it does kind of lose its luster when you overindulge. So I'm going to save that one for another rainy day. The Eye of the Heron by Ursula K. Le Guin. You know, I'm always excited for Le Guin. I don't know anything about this book, but that kind of makes it more exciting to me. Definitely would love to read it right now, so that's going to go in the maybe pile as well. Blood Music by Greg Bear comes highly recommended by seemingly everybody I talk to on YouTube and Discord. I'm sure it's an amazing book, and again, I would be excited to read it right now, so maybe that one too. The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. Sea of Tranquility was a surprise top tier book for me in 2023. So I saw this in the wild and of course I'm willing to give her another shot. I don't know if it's science fiction. Oh, but the funny thing about this one, in the front cover, the previous owner wrote their opinion about it. And the one thing they had to say was that it was a strange story and that it was hard to follow, which I believe. That's kind of her theme as far as I can tell. But you do kind of have to brace yourself for it being a novel of theme and not a novel of plot. So I don't know if I'm ready for that one right now. The Manticore by Robertson Davies, the second book in the Deptford trilogy, which started with Fifth Business, one of my favorite books of last year. And I think I'm in the mood for it. I'm in the mood for a classic book, I think. So this one suddenly skyrocketed to the top of most likely book I'm going to read next. But here's a contender, White Noise by Don DeLillo. Beautiful Penguin Orange edition. I found this one at Goodwill a few months ago, and I was reading the synopsis. It really hits on a lot of the thoughts that I have about modern technology, a lot of the thoughts that I've shared here on the channel about the numbing effects of AI and comfort technologies. Probably a depressing book. I probably got to prep myself for it, but maybe affirming, which I know can be a dangerous thing. But look at that. Gorgeous book. Definitely excited to read that one, but I probably am more excited for The Manticore right now. Dawn by Octavia Butler. I read her for the first time in 2023, and it ended up being one of my favorite books of the year. That was Parable of the Sower, so if I'm gonna read her again, I'd like to finish that series and read Parable of the Talents. But this one comes highly recommended. I think this is her most popular book, but I could be wrong. Next up is a book I've been searching for a while. It's the runner-up of book I'm most excited to read this year. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. You do find this book all the time at Goodwill and library sales, but it's always the movie tie-in edition, and I didn't want to read a book with Will Smith's face on the cover. I loved Richard Matheson's The Shrinking Man. I think we have a similar mindset, so any book that he's written, I'm probably going to enjoy. This one, of course, is very popular and has been vetted by the masses, so I know I'll enjoy that one. And lastly, the book I am most excited to read this year, Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky Brothers. I have seen so much praise for this book on YouTube and Discord that I'm going to have to temper my expectations, but I have seen some criticisms, so I think I know what I'm in for. It's going to be kind of clunky, it's going to be kind of sparse at times, but I think it will be beautiful. Plus, this one has an introduction by Le Guin, who I imagine is going to praise it. Hopefully not spoil it, because I will read that introduction before I read this book. Probably not the book I'm going to read next. I'm going to save this for my next sci-fi block of books. My next read is either going to be The Manticore by Robertson Davies or A Farewell to Arms by Hemingway. I'm feeling something kind of literary, maybe something a little bit heavy. You know, also, I would be down for The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. I don't really know what I'm in for, but, you know, it's poetry, it's pretty short. Could be interesting, but what do you guys think? Any of these I should avoid? Any of these are overhyped? Or any I should fast track to the head of the line? Let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Which one would you read, Muffin?